was born like this, it's born like this, immaculate conception, not transformed like this, perform like this.
In my DNA. Little Kendrick there. Just a little Kendrick. This is how I stay connected to the teenagers in my house. It's through the Kendrick and Drake beef. I had to mediate. So I had to understand who was who. And you know who won for me. You heard them. Oh, come on. Where are my high school teachers? So it's going to take me a moment to settle into this. So because it's going to take me a moment and I am trying to know myself a little better, there's a QR code. Is it up? Can we put it up? No? Yeah. Yeah! So as I get myself acclimated to the responsibility of this message this morning, I want you to get acclimated to the impact of this leadership you've elected. We got some work to do. So hit that sign. Figure out how to sign up to defend our democracy. Because we're going to ask a lot of you. And you know why I'm going to ask a lot of you? Because if you're keeping score, you had the mayor of Chicago here yesterday who said, I surplused $1 billion to libraries, parks, and schools. And he said, I'm doing my part. And he said, the state needs to do their part. And so this morning, the governor of Illinois comes here and he says, paraprofessionals, I got a little bit more money for you all. He said that higher ed, I see you, I promise I do. He says, all of the stats are up for us, but we still can be number one. There was a standard set, a demand put forward, and he was accountable for hearing that and responding to it. Sounds like a pretty powerful room.
All right.
You got a mayor carrying your water, and you got a governor being accountable to the carrying of that water. Give yourselves a hand. Thank you, Local 1, for trusting me. Thank you.
You've done a lot of work, sister. You've done a lot of work.
Thank you to the staff, the administration of the Illinois Federation of Teachers for both holding a transition and a convention and having your whole motherboard blow up at the same time. Thank you. Clap for these people. Thank you to the staff at CTU, the administrators, my sisters, Dr. Castro, Vicky Crizzillo, my partner, Jackson Potter, Christelle, Maria. Thank you for leading with my crazy ass. It is an honor to stand before you. I am so deeply humbled by the opportunity that I get. Because people can prepare. They can get straight A's. They can make the right decisions. They can do everything right, and they still won't reap the benefit of this blessing. So I am humbled that I am chosen to be with you. Thank you, IFT, for saying yes to this. So I'm going to slow this down a little bit. It's been going, hasn't it? I took off my jacket, not because I'm just slowing it down, because I'm perimenopausal, too. Oh, my God. Yes, God. Women's health care, right? They want to talk about an abortion, baby. I want to talk about a hot flash. And a fibroid. See how a man to talk about the wrong thing all the time? I'm sorry, I love y'all. Because his name is Kevin Gates. He's my husband, and he enables my leadership. That man is special, you all. He is the best father that I know, and I am in his debt forever for choosing to love me through all of this. You know, I'm a mother. I have Kevin, he is 16, and he's a jock, you all. I walked through his school with him. And I was like, they think you something, don't they? Like he is, and he walks with it, and his teachers told me he's kind. That's important for me. I want a kind person. They told me that he's a leader in his classrooms. They told me the exact same thing in every single class I went to. The coach says the same thing. You know what they said? He can even be better. And they're pushing him. Remember that push. I'm gonna come back to that later. Remember that push. And then I have Hazel. I cannot dance. Y'all saw me moving on the stage. That's as good as it gets. But this sister is gonna be on someone's Broadway stage at some point. And I ain't lying, because I don't lie on my kids. And I don't give them false, hope either. And then there is an 11-year-old that intimidates me every single morning. She's not scared of me. So all of y'all talking about y'all scared of me, wimps. Because there is an 11-year-old who puts me in my place every morning about something she's trying to wear to school. I'm a teacher too. I'm a high school history teacher. And I liked my classroom because it gave me the ability to respond to the world that we have, the world that we once had, and the world that we can have. I didn't understand it then, but I liked being a high school history teacher for the same reason I like being an organizer. We get to show vision. We get to show knowledge of. We get to show empathy and vulnerability, and we get to give it too. And we also have to show power and courage. So those things exist in both realms, so this idea of becoming an organizer, teacher, organizer appeals to my spirit because of the books that I was able to read in our elementary school library. It was Kennedy Elementary School on the west side of South Bend. And it had a pit. Shout out to the 70s. And you could sit, it's the bottom all the way up to the top. And we had good teachers and librarians at Kennedy Elementary School because they made the literature come alive. Miss Deek, my 4th grade teacher, she used to put us in a semicircle every day after lunch, and she would read to us. My favorite book at the time was Mrs. Frisbee and the Rats of Nim. You remember that book? And it was so powerful because you had this secret society, organized society of rats who were experimented on. Literature has power, you all. And they formed a society to protect themselves. But they had allies and the mice on that same farm. Mr. Frisbee was an ally, but Mrs. Frisbee didn't know the full extent. She knew what she knew, but the kids didn't know. And then when they got in trouble, those rats were there for them, and Mrs. Frisbee was there for them. They saved each other. They survived a moment. And I learned that in the 4th grade, listening to Ms. Deek. Teach me resistance. Teach me community. Teach me coalition. Teach me allyship. See how powerful literature is? And the teachers who give you an opportunity to engage it, that's what we fight for. I also think of Mr. Jordan, who was the type of teacher you knew about before you even got to the school or to the grade, because he would get with your ass. He was that guy. He wish you would. And he used to stand just like this. He would. It's like, damn, you searching for a fight? It's like 6:45. And I had on a pair of distressed jeans. That's what we call them now, but they were just holy jeans back then. And baby, I thought I was the thing. You know, I was in the 7th grade. I was cute too, right? That's what I thought. I didn't think that, but I wanted to think that, so that's what I tried to project. And I don't know, he called me out, and he put me in my place, and I ain't like it, and I told him. And so he challenged me a little bit more, and before you knew it, I had ISS. So then my parents had to come to the school. And then Mr. Jordan became my biggest advocate, my best friend, my coach, my confidant, and my protector. Because it's not always easy for a little black girl in South Bend, Indiana, who is the only black girl in her gifted and talented class. Sometimes it's not safe to be there because people don't see all of what you need in dimension, right? Because we're not all the same as students. You know that. But if you're a new mother going back to work, sometimes they look the same. If you are a middle career educator and your father is dying and your mother is grieving it and you have to hold it together while also shuttling your teenagers back and forth, you don't always see what your students need in the moment. And that's why you have to have a union, you all. You have to have people who can tell your story. You have to have people who can understand you, give you the benefit of the doubt, and work for something better. Thank God we all have the Illinois Federation of Teachers. I'm taking my time with biography because when you leave here, all of your members are going to call and ask you what the hell you did in Rosemont electing that woman from Chicago. They are. I know they are because I know white people. And I know you in dimension, so this ain't no hate whitey speech. I know the kindness of Jackson Potter, who made sure that his students understood him as an advocate in the classroom and out of the classroom. Jackson Potter writes tuition checks, you all. He does. Just like you all in this room write a lot of checks for a lot of things. I know who you are, and thank you for being who you are. And who I am was burnished with Laura Hooper Davis, who left Sunflower County, Mississippi, and went to South Bend, Indiana, and put a down payment on my future. And then there's Hazel Watts, who I don't think was well protected as a female child. Because in my therapy, I am understanding the baggage that I have, where it came from, but it all feels like trauma for someone who wasn't held tight enough, wasn't protected from the world. People did things to her. I am telling you who they are so you will know who I am. I am one generation away from a plantation in Eudora, Arkansas, and Sunflower County, Mississippi. They pick cotton. My grandmothers. They pick cotton. It's not a picture from 1850. My grandparents, I'm 48 years old. One generation. So when people call me passionate, fiery, that's the one they like lately. Tell them intense. Tell them expectant. Tell them righteous. Because of what we deserve already. So now that we got all of that vulnerability out the way, I'm going to tell you that you are the most powerful, the most dedicated, the most courageous, and you are also the biggest labor group as educators in the state of Illinois, and we're about to flex that a little bit, a lot of bit. Because we already have the ingredients to make it work. See, I'm coming to get something that has already been prepared for me as a leader. Thank you, President Dan Montgomery. At ISU during the pandemic, the workers there came to the IFT because they didn't think the administration understood its responsibility to them as workers, and even more importantly, as human beings, because it was the pandemic. They wanted to figure out shared governance, and they wanted to organize. And we said, you don't say or in union, you say and. So you can both have governance and you can have power. And they got their first contract done with community and student support in under a year. Shout out to ISU. And shout out to the PSRPs everywhere, because I come talk to you first. And at Francis Parker, your dues, you remember Dan said 3 years ago, I'm going to increase your dues, and we're going to go and give PSRPs and make them bigger and stronger and give them more leadership? Well, at Francis Parker, the private school in Chicago, where management dug in over the summer and then blinked the second workers to strike there. Like, you know, they think they bad until they ain't. Shout out to Francis Parker PSRPs. At UIUC, we were organizing grad students. They won their contract after 2 bargaining sessions. Y'all bad. But I guess they knew you was bad too. And in West Frankfort, the boss is telling them you can continue to work for insurance only and come home with no net income. That's what the boss is saying in West Frankfort. And West Frankfort educators said, the hell you say? And stand up if you got a nearly 100% strike vote. Where y'all at? And then in Valley View, the members said, we can do better. And they did. Shout out to Valley View. And teachers at my home local all over that city are doing sidewalk solidarity. They're fanning the flames of tear gas. They are organizing with the community, and they are telling Donald Trump to get the hell on. Thank you. So as much as I want to thank you for your confidence in me, I also want to thank you for your confidence in all of us. Because here, at a rising time of fascism, means that leading this union is going to be very difficult. And you heard the difficulty in this room just a moment ago. My brother Muhammad, who is Palestinian, is in pain, very real pain, and we get to hold that with him. I'm not saying that pain manifests in a way that's comfortable to us all the time. Hold that. Or appropriate some of the times. Hold that too. But his pain as our brother is ours to hold all of the time. So let's hold him too. The IFT has state workers, and people like Veronica Aguiar and her co-workers was walking around the AG's office doing like actions on them in the office, like of cubicles and stuff. You can't get no closer to the boss than that. And then the AG was calling Dan like, okay, are they CTU or what?
That's true.
Thank you, Veronica, for your leadership. So, as a history teacher, I have to tell you that there are things that I know about solidarity that we're going to summon in this moment. I told all of those stories about all of those things because you need to understand that I stand here today not just because those black women resisted, dreamed, worked hard, made it happen, but also because there were white people who believed in the same thing too. I say that because I'm going to just state the obvious. They going to play with us. They are. The right wing is going to come in and try to make you think anything and everything about the direction in which we're going to come. But I'm going to ask you to suspend that for a moment. For a moment. And I'm going to ask you to struggle as a family of siblings, of brothers, of sisters, to imagine an Illinois where when the governor says that the credit rating is up, he also says, that's why I can fully fund EBF. And the only way that that happens is if everyone in this room agrees that he has to say that. And the only way we get to agreement is through consent. And the only way we get consent is by practicing democracy. So local leaders, because this is a room of delegates, you have a responsibility when you get back to your places. I am not coming to wherever you live to run your union. I'm not. I missed 2 soccer games this weekend. And I don't do that. Because they deserve me too. Women's leadership needs other people's leadership to get better, bigger, louder, and more inclusive. I can't do this without you. In 1850, the Chicago City Council said that they were not going to enforce the Fugitive Slave Act because it was amoral, it was immoral, and that it was from hell. And they didn't. But just because you say you're going to do something doesn't mean that the monster, the bully, the Trump listens. In fact, as teachers, you know what you got to do to a bully. You teach this one-to-one and quietly, I hope. Shout out to Nick Christensen. I say this because that's what you're going to have to teach this entire state of Illinois. There are farmers in the Kankakee area that are struggling in this moment. And their struggle becomes our struggle because whatever revenue they're not pulling in is also not going to the local school district. That's one part of it, but here's the other part. These are families with children. So the trauma of being hungry, unhoused, doesn't just exist with the 20,000 in Chicago, they exist in the rural parts of Illinois as well. So the city council said we ain't doing it. And like you know, it's not enough for the government body to say something, because that's not where the power is. You got the governor and the mayor at your meeting 2 days in Rosemont. Somebody tell me whose power? And I want you to remember that because you got to go back and teach this. See, they don't like me because I know the truth about us. I know that when you have over 100,000 members, in the state of Illinois, you run the goddamn state. I know that the governor of Illinois has to come to this meeting. I know that Senate candidates had to visit the executive board twice already. So in order to enforce this rebuke of this unfair law, that the city of Chicago had to get organized, and they had to figure out how to form liberty associations. But liberty associations were formed to protect and support people who were willing to defy the federal government because it was unjust. You know, they thought it was okay to pay white people a little bit of money. See how that's different from talking about slavery? Because if I ain't working for shit, you ain't working for that much more. That's why it matters that in West Frankfort we have members who are only working for health care. That's why we got to say health care for all and take it off the bargaining table, period. So they have these liberty associations and they're interracial and they're like courageous. And at the time, they're crazy. Just like y'all think of Local One. I know, y'all quit playing. I live in this world too. We are crazy. We are. We are crazy enough to believe that a teachers union in Chicago can give children what they deserve because they goddamn deserve it. And that is crazy, just like it was crazy to think that women could vote. That's crazy, just like we thought that it was crazy that black people would ever not work for free on a plantation. Just like it was crazy for white men who didn't own land, who weren't corporate titans, to vote. For gay men and women to marry. For workers to have an 8-hour day and a fair wage. So this country has receipts for the crazy. But our crazy cannot be the crazy south of I-80 because it don't work like that. I told you I grew up in South Bend, Indiana, next door to white people. Sometimes where I was the only black girl in class. I know white people because when you're black, and your grandparents are from the fascist Jim Crow South, that's your fucking protection to know them. Because I have to discern who's good and who's safe. And I can report that the IFT is good and safe. So it is up to us right now to not just live in the image of what Chicago did with liberty associations, but also what Alton, Illinois did, and printing the truth so people could read it and be compelled by it. Liberation had to happen in Chicago and Alton in order for my people to be free. Enslaved Africans had to walk off of plantations into the spaces of the Underground Railroad, manned by women and white folks and black folks, free black folks even. It takes a coalition of people who believe in the power of connection, of grace, of love, of community. The resistance that teachers and state workers and professors and university workers and paraprofessional and clinicians have to do in this moment is show how we can be different. It's to be different, to practice different, and to organize different. That is our work all the time. And I'm going to tell you that I know it's hard to work a full day of work and be a union president, and the only thing you can do is handle the grievance. You can't do common good, nothing. But your heart is in the right place because you have mutual aid where you're feeding families. See, I want to build an IFT that helps you feed them and change the tax structure in Illinois so they can feed the damn selves. This will be a union of the and. You can have a fiery leader from Chicago and a white woman from the South on a flatbed in high heels talking about the justice and the equity that Cahokia deserves too. Stand up, Vice President Cindy Arberly-Dahm. You also get to have a very, very smart, passionate, but intense as hell leader from the university professionals to get people in their place. Stand up, John Miller, membership secretary, and get to the stage. And get to the stage. And get to the stage. I also want to bring up, hey, yo, you know when somebody got it? You ain't got to even define it. You just know it. Was the North Suburban leader, Punky Shawarma. I want you to look at the state of Illinois. I want you to look at people who care about people. I want you to look at leaders who are willing to take us to the next level as a union. Thank them for signing up to say yes. Thank them. So I'm going to make this real clear, IFT. This is our union. This is our state. These are our students. These are our families. These are our state budgets. This belongs to us. And I want you to own it. And I want you to be empowered in the way that you need to talk to the people in Alton, Illinois. It's always got to come back to justice and equity, but how you say it, the way in which you organize it, I trust you, leader. And Champaign, I want you to figure out what your organizing rap is to make sure that ain't no loyalty pledges signed down there neither. And I want you to do it with the GEOs. I want you to do it in coalition with the students on that campus. And I want you to do it in the way that makes it powerful and protective. I want the teachers in Cahokia to be 10 toes down in the face of the boss's power. Because when we don't work, they can't work, their kids can't go to school, and everything in that space stops. And it's not just the power of it, it is the importance of your work. It is the importance of your practice. It is the importance of your commitment. So when you take your strike vote, and when it's nearly 100%, every member in the IFT has your back on whatever picking line you choose. But it ain't just about the strike that they're organizing for the Paris and Joliet. It's not just about the big things that we do in Chicago. Sometimes it's about the other things, the everyday things. So I'm going to get your consent for where this union is about to go, because that's how I work in democracy. That's the only way I'm powerful, is if I get your consent. So let me see if I can get this room's consent.
You got it.
Stand if you've been told by the boss that they don't have to pay you for all the time that you work. Stand if you've been told by the boss that they can close a program or take away funding for something that works. Stand if you've had your Board of Education cut corners and depend on you to do it even still. Stand if you've taken a strike vote because you know the power of a strike. Stand up if you stayed at a table and won better wages despite what they said that they couldn't do. Stand if your contract makes school better for students. Stand up. Stand up if you stood up for young people during COVID. Stand up if you work in a council that only has 50 people and you had to stand up to the boss all by yourself. Stand up. Stand up if this is your first convention. Stand up if you've recruited people here. Stand up if you are willing to tell our governor that a credit rating is only as good as the amelioration of the second tier of pensions. Stand up if you are ready to tell Chris Welch, the Speaker of the House, that EBF has to be fully funded. Stand up if you're willing to tell Senate President Don Harmon that the state needs more revenue. And keep standing if you are going to go back to whence you came from and tell the good news of coalition. Stay standing if you are willing to win the progressive revenue to make the billionaires who take away SNAP pay for it. Stand if you are willing to make these same billionaires be responsible for fully funding health care for everybody in this country. But even more so, stand if you believe that this union in this moment has the capacity to tax the rich, make schools work for our children, save higher education, create a state budget that meets the needs of every resident in this state. You stand if you believe that this union at this time can do that. You say IFT. Say it again for the slow ones. Listen, believe what my enemies have said about me. Let's go, IFT.
I got loyalty.